Oh my God! What was going on?
Listen to me. We've only got 2 minutes, so it's important that you listen, okay?
Who are you?
Trust me. You're dead.
How am I dead?
You were stabbed.
I'm not dead. I can see you.
We've brought you back, but we haven't got long. I'm sorry, but you've got to concentrate. Who did this to you? What did you see?
Why am I dead?
Who attacked you?
I don't want to be dead.
60 seconds.
You've got to think. Just focus on me. What was the last thing you saw?
I didn't see any. I don't know.
Who killed you? Did you see them?
I don't know. There was something behind me.
Police said 1 stab wound in the back.
So you didn't see anything?
No. What happens now?
30 seconds.
But he didn't see anyone.
Don't waste it.
What else do I say?
What's your name?
John Tucker.
Okay, John. Not long now.
Who are you?
Captain Jack Harkness. Tell me, what was it like when you died? What did you see? John, tell me what you saw.
10 seconds.
Nothing. I saw nothing. Oh my God, there's nothing.
Hello and welcome to Who Watches Who, a Doctor Who podcast with me, Matthew, and as always...
I'm Scott. Hello,
Scott. This week we are doing a very special episode. We're covering the first episode of Torchwood this week. Why?
Because it's a 20... Well, I was about to say 20th anniversary. I'm a bit too far ahead of myself there. It's the 15th anniversary. Slightly just passed because when we're doing this, it's the 18th. It's like 4 days before the 15th anniversary. My God,
we're recording this about 2 weeks before release.
Yeah,
at this point, but it's coming up to the 15th anniversary of Torchwood,
or just past the 15th anniversary from when you're listening to it. But yeah, it's a very special show in my heart. It's the first pretty much R-rated show I ever saw. And it evokes something with me with all the sex, so yeah.
Interesting. This episode first aired on the 22nd of October 2006, which was a Sunday, God's Day, and this is a very godly episode and a very godly series. You can really feel the heart of him and everything. Which at the time of recording was 14 years, 11 months, and 22 days ago, so we are coming right up to that 15th anniversary on the day of recording, which is pretty wild to think about. I never watched Torchwood, so this was my first experience going through this episode the other night, which was pretty fun, but I do have memories of Torchwood being on TV.
Oh yeah, so I was pretty much a day one viewer. I didn't have BBC Three at the time, so I had to wait a couple of days for it to be on BBC Two, but yeah, I taped every episode and just watched the hell out of them. Good times.
It was too grown up for me, I'm afraid.
It was on past my bedtime, so I had to tape every episode, and I just watched it tape the next afternoon.
Not a lot of things happened on this day, but could you guess as to who was the United States President and the United Kingdom Prime Minister? As if we haven't done this 3 weeks in a row.
Oh yeah, so the last 3 episodes have been just covering the same time period, so I'm just going to guess the same thing I guessed 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago now.
Which is?
You know.
I would like to hear your verbal answer, please.
I'm not going to think. Ronald Reagan and Margaret Thatcher.
Just off by a smidge. It was, of course, George W. Bush and Tony Blair.
Oh, so close.
I think it's the school reunion episode where I talk a bit more about the history of those two. I'm not going to repeat myself again for 3 weeks in a row. If there was like 2 months between episodes, sure, I'd do it again, but it's a bit too close together for me to just regurgitate the same information. Not a lot of stuff happened on this day, but there is some very tragic news. On this exact day of airing the first episode of Torchwood, Richard Mays, who was a British actor known for Doctor Who and Emmerdale, passed away of a stroke at age 83. He played Chief Baxter in the Doctor Who television story Fury from the Deep, which you told me is one of the ones they completely lost.
Yeah, it's one of the ones that completely went missing. I think they animated it last year, but I think he had a very minor part in it. I haven't seen the animated version, and I haven't seen the reconstruction in so long, like 15 years, so I cannot remember his character in it at all. So I'm sure he was great in it. I'm sure he was great.
Yeah, I'm sure he was the standout performance. It's a real shame that Torchwood killed him. Could you guess the top film in the United Kingdom?
So it's the October holidays, pretty much. So I'm guessing it might be a family movie, maybe. I have no idea what the hell released in 2006. Tell me.
So right on this week, the top film is Martin Scorsese's The Departed, which I have never seen. But next week, it gets taken over by Saw 3.
Oh.
See, you mistook the October holidays for Halloween. It is the spooky season. And with that knowledge, could you guess the top film in the US? I bet you couldn't.
Was it pretty much the same? I don't.
No.
Yeah, okay.
It was actually different. The top film in the US was The Prestige.
Okay.
On this day, which is a Christopher Nolan
Right,
film.
yeah.
So Scorsese was number 1 in the UK, while Nolan was number 1 in the US. I've not seen The Prestige. My only knowledge of The Prestige is in Auntie Donna's Big Ol' House of Fun, with the fruit that lists off Christopher Nolan movies, and it goes, The Prestige. That's my only information on The Prestige.
And every time I touch this watermelon, it sounds like someone naming all of Christopher Nolan's films.
Batman Begins, Memento, The Prestige, the one where it's about war and they get the boats. Dunkirk.
The Prestige is a really good film. You should watch it. The Departed is... What was
It's a Scorsese.
What was
Scorsese's good.
What was the film that was very similar to The Prestige? Like it came...
No idea.
Like it came out at the same time, like The Illusionist.
Departed?
I'm thinking about The Illusionist.
Never heard of it.
Yeah, it had Edward Norton, Paul Giamatti, and yeah, it was very much the same thing. It came out around the same time. It was like a Armageddon Deep Impact. Is that the other movie that came out at the same time?
Yeah.
So yeah.
Just those times where the Matrix gets its wires crossed and produces the same film twice.
But yeah.
But even The Prestige couldn't defeat the juggernaut that would be Saw 3 that takes over it next week and becomes the number 1 at the box office, because Saw 3, Halloween comes out every year on Halloween, or at least it did for the next 6 years since from the first one, from Saw 1 to Saw 6. Have you ever seen the Saw films?
I've never saw the Saw film.
Wow, you're missing out. They're pretty fun. I recently went through all of them again, and they get really bad. But the first one is genuinely very good, and then they, progressively decline.
I think that's the same for like most horror movie franchises. We just get worse and worse.
Yeah, as somehow they just keep making it, and it keeps getting worse.
Like Scream. Each movie got worse.
Sure, yeah. The first one's phenomenal.
It is.
And then progressively just gets worse and worse. I
know.
can't wait for the new one.
The new one, which is also called Scream for no reason. I'm not.
Because it's going to be like a soft reboot thing, isn't it? It's like they're bringing back the original characters, but it's a reboot.
Yeah, but the last one was a reboot. Like, the last one was a satire on reboots. Like, what is this new one
Yeah, but the last one didn't make money. Could you guess the top song in the United States on this day? I'll give you a hint. I've not heard of it.
That's a solid hint. What song haven't you heard of?
The top song in the UK, I do know, though. So
just give me them.
The number 1 in the US was Money Maker by Ludacris, featuring Farrell.
Will Ferrell.
Ferrell. I've never said that out loud before. Farrell? Oh my goodness. I'm really showing my culture here. How would you... Farrell?
I think so. I don't know. Yeah, not somebody I've ever listened to.
Yeah, I only know Ludacris from the Fast and the Furious films, and even then I don't watch the Fast and the Furious films.
I don't know that song, or any of those songs.
I didn't know it either. I listened to it, and I genuinely didn't. I've never heard of it before in my life. The top song in the UK, though, I do know, and it is still in my rotation because at heart I am still an emo 14-year-old girl. so that's the biggest hint I could give you.
Is it a My Chemical Romance song or something?
It is a My Chemical Romance song.
I don't know which. Black Parade? I don't know.
Ding, ding, ding. We have a winner. Welcome to the Black Parade by My Chemical Romance is #1 in the UK right now. And I've never been more proud of the UK Top of the Pops compared to the US ones for once. It's a genuinely good song.
It is, yes. I remember hearing that song back. So I had a friend at school. We talked on... Remember the YouTube message boards? You can send each other private messages. Nobody remembers when YouTube had like a private, like an email service.
First started using YouTube properly around 2010.
Jesus fucking Christ.
2011-ish.
But yeah, around 2007 or 2008, one of my friends from school sent me the video on YouTube, and I was like, yeah, this is decent. It's a song. But I like it better. I do like it better now. I understand what it is.
It's still in my playlist to this day. It is still a song that I will listen to when it comes up in my playlist full of so many songs.
I think I prefer the Teenager song more than the Black Parade. Yeah,
that one's good. It's just a good band in general. It's too bad COVID stopped their reunion.
I don't know any other songs apart from Teenager and Black Parade, but yeah, decent band. We did a song for the Nightmare Before Christmas soundtrack or something. Like we did a whole album where different bands covered different songs, and I think they were one of them. Can't remember which one we did though.
Interesting. Yeah, but that's literally all the information I have for this day in history. And not much happened except for, of course, the debut episode of Torchwood. Not Doctor Who anymore. We're for grown-ups, which I think was the working title before they shortened it.
Oh yeah, of course. Yes, it's a great title. Flows right off the tongue.
Yeah, I don't know why they shortened it to just Torchwood.
What a weird show to come out of Doctor Who, though.
Yeah, but I remember being, I don't know, maybe 12 or 13, and when you first find out that Torchwood is an anagram for Doctor Who.
I found that out in like 2006, dude.
Yeah, no, but I was 6 years old then, so and I didn't watch Torchwood, but I was like, I remember being like 10 or 11 and finding that out and being like, oh, that's cool. That's a fun thing about Torchwood, isn't it?
Yeah, it is a fun
anagram for Doctor Who.
We should have done that for every spin-off. Like with Sarah Jane Adventures could have been called...
There's only so many words you can make with those letters.
Dort, shoot. I don't know. Chord.
Chord-two. Chord-two.
How about this one? This is creative. Wood torch.
Damn, that is creative.
Or Who Doctor. just about a doctor who works at the Who company. The Who organization.
Yeah, well, it's a good one.
Torchwood came out on this day. Yeah. We agree or not?
Allegedly.
Allegedly. The idea of a British sci-fi paranoid thriller about cops that investigate human and alien crime as well as alien technology had been in Russell T Davis's brain since 2002 when he was working with Julie Gardner on Casanova, which Casanova is of course the series where David Tennant was first found, and Julie Gardner of course became co-producer on Doctor Who with Russell T Davies, and her company is, of course, coming back for the new season of Doctor Who next year. Can't wait for that. The working title for the series at the time was Excalibur, and he won...
I'm pretty sure it was Torchwood, the Doctor Who show for adults, or whatever it was I said before.
Okay, sure, but also Excalibur. So he wanted the show to be a bit like Buffy at the time, which, of course... is one of my favorite shows, and we should definitely do a podcast on that at one point.
Yeah, it's okay. It's an okay show.
Well, I'll okay you and something else. Get lost.
Ouch.
So Russell P. Davis? That's his distant cousin. Russell P. Davis. Russell D. Davis pitched the idea to Gardner.
Russell D. Davis?
I said T.
Yeah, I heard D.
Oh my god. Russell T. The Davis.
Russell the Davis.
So he pitched the idea to Gardner in 2002, with the starting point being that there's a crime in an alley side at night, and the unusual thing is, the police are on the wrong side of the tape, and then in walk a sexy team of individuals using alien technology to investigate the scene. And yeah, it definitely is a sexy team of individuals, eh?
It's certainly, yeah, it's one of their defining features as a team. Separately disgusting, but together, oh, now that's something else.
They're sexy and they swear. That's what makes them different from Doctor Who characters.
There is a naughty word in this episode and violence, so you know it's for adults.
Still not enough sex. That's to come next week.
Yeah, they fix that in the next episode.
So when BBC Three, this is like 2005, when BBC Three asked Russell T Davis to develop an adult spin-off, which is an odd thing to do. Like, why would we do... An adult spin-off of Doctor Who is such an odd concept to me. It still feels weird, doesn't it?
Well, you know, they've got Doctor Who for family, and then it's Doctor Who for the older kids, and then with eventually Sarah Jane, it's Doctor Who for the younger kids. It's like every generation gets their own version of Doctor Who, and then they can all come together and watch regular Doctor Who. I think it's a pretty good idea.
Yeah, it is a good idea, but it just feels weird. After like 30 years of Doctor Who, to have an adult spin-off now, just imagining William Hartnell walking in on the alien sex gas episode, just feels weird. But Russell T Davis, when asked by BBC Three to develop a spin-off, he immediately went back to the concept, and he thinks the idea would have been harder to do without the Doctor Who connection. And yeah, I absolutely agree with that. You need like an established audience base, yeah. Because this show wouldn't have had this kind of budget or attention if it wasn't related to Doctor Who.
Yeah, it's a lot easier to write in a pre-established world than have to create your own. Like, imagine if this was like just a regular sci-fi show where they're like, okay, we have to come up with all these aliens, we have to just explain why Jack's immortal, you know. Whereas all this has been done for you before. There's an established universe that you're in.
100%. And so the news broke out on the 17th of October 2005 that there would be an adult spin-off. So this was like a couple of months after Series 1 of Doctor Who finished. And that's a really quick turnaround for a spin-off. Like, considering the show was...
They had a lot of confidence in Doctor Who.
Yeah, considering 16 years ago, before this, the show wasn't wanted by the BBC. They just really wanted a spin-off out of the bat. That's insane to think about. So, of course, we know Torchwood was the working name of Doctor Who Series 1 to hide the fact that it was actually Doctor Who. So whenever we were on set, we just had words Torchwood to hide the fact it was Doctor Who, which is a great idea. Mm-hmm. It's like how one of the Star Wars movies was called Blue Harvest. I think it was the last one.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so there was a time Jack would appear early on in Series 2 of Doctor Who, possibly to do a backdoor pilot, but the plans changed once Eccleston left the Doctor Who series. They decided to give all the focus to the Doctor and Rose and how their relationship changed when the Doctor regenerates, which is a solid idea. I think having Jack in it would kind of complicate things between them.
Mm-hmm. He comes back though, don't worry. They get him back in season 3
and 4.
Yeah, and then like 11. If someone listening isn't aware of what a backdoor pilot is, though, it's basically when a TV show decides that they want to become a different TV show for an episode and to see if it would work as a individual TV show. So the best example of that's The Office. In the season finale, not the season finale, but the last season of The Office, there's an episode following Dwight on his farm with his like family and his cousins and things like that. And that was a backdoor pilot to see if people would be interested in a Dwight spin-off on the farm, and everyone hated it. It's a fine episode. Go back and watch it. It's totally fine. But at the time, people really didn't like it. And that's a backdoor pilot that didn't work.
Another good example of that came quite recently for the CW show Arrow, which I watched to the end. I don't know why, because it got so terrible. But the last season had like 7 episodes, or regular episodes. The 8th one was a crossover episode. The 9th one was a backdoor pilot for like the female characters of the show. And then episode 10 was like a series final that kind of... So episode 8 of the series had Oliver Queen die, the main character, and then episode 10 was the final, so he had 2 episodes without the main character, it wasn't a great last season. It was kind of shit, to be honest.
I watched Arrow when it aired up until season 2, and then went, this show's boring, and never watched it again, and it was the best decision of my life.
The first 2 seasons were great. The 3rd one was shit. The 4th one was shit. And all the other ones were quite shit. But I'll tell you who was good on Arrow. Do you know who was good on Arrow?
Stephen Amell. Arrow himself.
And John Barrowman, who also happens to be in Torchwood.
He does.
See how we tie it back in? So going over the cast, John Barrowman was worried he would be written out of the show altogether. And he was very happy to find out he was given the lead role in Torchwood instead. And yeah.
And made immortal. And literally made so that his character can never die.
But yeah, having Jack as the main character was a good decision at the time. I wouldn't say it's a good decision now, but at the time, he was like the most popular character to come out of that show. So absolutely have a sexier adult spin-off based around him. That's a great idea.
Yeah, I remember everyone loving Captain Jack. And I loved Captain Jack as well. Like, even like in his one episode two? He's in the finale of season 1. They're like 3 or 4 episodes he's in season 1. Like, he shines so bright. Like, he's such a good character. I love Captain Jack. Which, even up until like 2 years ago, not even that, like last year.
Yeah.
The idea of Captain Jack being back in Doctor Who was so exciting. And now it's a bit like you go, oh no.
Yeah, John Barrowman has kind of gone off the rails. Yeah,
his Twitter's a whirlwind, isn't it?
It's like watching a car crash in slow motion. It's just like that time where he complained about the movie Old and he demanded a refund from the theater, even though he's like a millionaire. It's like, really, really,
It's
John?
supposed to be a bad film, though.
It is, but to demand your $10 back, that's
yeah, I know.
That's a bit.
Yeah.
So the character of Gwen was written specifically for Eve Miles, who had been in Doctor Who before. If you remember The Unquiet Dead, I think her name was Gwyneth. She was like I don't
remember the episode.
It was the ghost one with the ghost boy. Why do I always forget his name?
The ghost one with the ghost boy.
Oh my god!
Of course.
Oh my god, what's his name? Charles Dickens.
Oh, from season 1.
Yes.
Yeah, with the gas ghosts. Yeah, I know exactly the episode.
Yes. How do I always forget his name? He's like one of the most famous authors of all time.
Yeah, he was.
But yeah, obviously Gwen, the connection was that Gwyneth was a distant relative. That's what it revealed.
I love when Doctor Who does that.
Yeah, but
with Martha and her cousin. That's an identical twin.
But yeah, that was the reveal in like the season 4 final of Doctor Who. Just the moment where David Tennant's all, "Oh, you look familiar, aren't you? Gwyneth, whatever." When I was like, "Oh yeah, you're relatives." That was a good moment. Yeah. And another person who had been in Doctor Who before is Tosh. The computer geek is played by Nyoko Mori, and she had appeared in Doctor Who Aliens of London as one of the scientists. If you remember that episode, the pig was running around the place. The astronaut pig.
Yes.
So obviously she's not a doctor in the Torchwood series. They've later retconned that as Owen, the real doctor of Torchwood, had a hangover that day, so Tosh filled in on duty. They had to explain everything in that show. So Owen, the Doctor, not the Doctor, but a Doctor
But
of
the
Torchwood,
Doctor.
yes, is played by Bern Gorman, and he had impressed Russell and Chibnall and Julie in Bleak House, which is a series adapted from Charles Dickens again, from a Charles Dickens book.
I really, really like Bern Gorman as an actor. He's in a
Uh-huh.
lot of stuff. He is typecast as science guy.
Yeah.
Uh,
He's
he
he's one of the agents in Johnny English Returns. Like, yeah.
Yeah, he's a scientist in Pacific Rim and Pacific Rim 2. He plays a scientist in It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia for an episode. Yeah, he likes playing scientists.
Yeah, he's a good actor. I like him a lot. He's probably my favorite actor from Torchwood. I don't like his character as much. He's a bit of a dickhead, but I think that's the point of every character in the show. Everyone's a dickhead.
He does play a not nice man in Torchwood, for sure.
So Yanto, the coffee maker, is played by Gareth David Lloyd, and I guess I forgot to do research on him. But yeah, he was like 25 when this show came out, so it was like one of his first major roles, and so good on him. And he has a shrine. He has a fucking shrine in like Cardiff, which is insane. He's like the only Doctor Who character to have a tourist attraction.
Yeah, he's also the probably the most popular character from Torchwood.
Yeah, yeah.
Outside of Captain Jack, like he's the one that everybody latches onto and likes, and still is doing spin-offs for Big Finish.
You probably know he's dead already. Yeah, it's not a spoiler, but yeah, his death is like one of the saddest Torchwood moments ever, and there's a good reason why he's so liked. He's a good character. And finally, Susie is played by Indira Varma, and she was revealed to be part of the main cast, which is a genius move considering what happens at the very end of this episode. Like, people thought she was going to be one of the main characters, and that's a great way to do it, I think.
Yeah, it's interesting though, because I didn't know that she was revealed as one of the main cast members going into watching this episode, and when I was watching it, immediately I went, she's not living. Like, I clocked her as that's the character that dies in this episode. I don't know what it is about her, but it just stood out to me as that's the one that dies. Like,
That's interesting. I guess you probably already knew most of the cast based on like the DVD covers and all that.
yeah, I guess it's like the one face I didn't actually recognize. That could be it.
She does come back in an episode called "They Keep Killing Susie," which was the title of that was hidden till the last minute. The original title was "They Keep Killing," and then like 2 weeks before the episode came out, they were like, "Let's add the word Susie at the end," which is another great move. So yeah, that's the cast and the marketing. Like, the marketing of this show is insane. The BBC really gave it a lot of support. They didn't want to reveal the date of the transmission too early because they were worried that ITV would try to come out with that show to compete with it, which is something I never considered when it came to like Doctor Who series 13. Yeah,
Yeah.
like they were probably holding off on the season 13 announcement because they didn't want any competition, which is an interesting move.
Yeah, you never really think of the rivalry between BBC and ITV anymore because you don't think about live TV
Yeah.
in the same way anymore. Like, if like ITV are showing a show and BBC are showing a show and they're both showing at the same time, I go, cool, I'll watch both on catch up. Like,
I know last year one of the reasons why the ratings were slightly lower than expected could have been due to like Dancing on Ice, which was around the same time, which aired exactly at the same time, and John Barrowman was also on that show, so
yeah, it's very possible that they're just trying to stop ITV counter-programming them.
which is a great move. Hopefully this season does great in ratings. Fingers crossed.
Are we, because we're recording this in advance, right now when the episode is out, I think the series has started, hasn't it?
Oh yes, one episode has aired, and the second one is
Yeah.
coming up in 2 days.
Yeah, that's exciting. Look forward to that, future us.
It feels so weird to be talking about the future because we're so far ahead right now.
We are very much, yeah.
So the BBC even gave the show cinema trailers, which was really rare at the time. It only lost the American show, and the BBC's show Robin Hood had done that before. Like, no TV show had trailers in the cinema really, which is a true testament to like the fact that the BBC really wanted to go out all guns blazing with this show. They even made it the centerpiece of BBC's Three's programming for autumn 2006. And if you remember, BBC Three at the time was kind of like a young channel. Like nobody really had anything. It was like 2 pints of lager and a packet of crisps. That was like one of the only shows that aired on that channel.
BBC Three still doesn't have anything that airs on.
True, it is coming back.
Yeah, it is coming back to TV because they tried putting it online and went, wait, nobody's watching this. Let's put it on TV where nobody will watch it.
I know, they really don't know what to do with that brand anymore. Like, just make it its own streaming service like Netflix. I think people would gravitate.
But they've got BritBox for that. Like,
yeah, I don't know what they're trying to do with that channel, but maybe BBC Three coming back will bring back Doctor Who Confidential and also Torchwood. Would Torchwood ever?
Like, I would like Torchwood to come back, but bringing it back, I think you would just have to do new characters.
Yeah, do the Torchwood series about what's going on in Glasgow.
Yeah.
and have us be in it.
Yeah, sure. We'll both play the same character again.
So they even tried to make viral videos on YouTube, which is insane. Like, one of the viral videos was one of a person filming the crime scene from the opening of episode 1. Now, if you remember, YouTube at this day and age only came out like a year ago. So the fact that we were trying to do viral videos on YouTube is genius marketing. I don't think it did very well. Like, nobody knew what it was. But like, just the idea of to do that is kind of wild.
Very ahead of its time. By like a decade ahead of its time.
Yeah, like Deadpool was like one of the first YouTube marketing viral things. I remember like one of Deadpool in the swings at Halloween with children trick-or-treating. And they even shot Torchwood in HD, which is something they wouldn't do for Doctor Who for another 3 years, which is, again, insane. I imagine it had to do with like budgeting, because doing special effects on a HD scales costs way more money, I'd imagine, with all those pixels. And
those pixels, they add up.
And I guess Torchwood is like a relatively special effects free.
The special effects they have do look terrible. So.
just like, you've only seen the first couple of episodes. Just you wait till the end of series 1, where they've run out of the budget. So yeah, this show was hugely successful when it came out. It got 2.4 million viewers on BBC Three when it aired, which was the largest viewers on a digital program of all time, just behind an episode of Friends that aired on Sky One in 2000. It's the episode where, just the episode after the cliffhanger where Ross and Rachel got drunk and married each other. Do you remember that classic episode?
Probably. I've seen Friends quite a few times.
But yeah, just the fact that it came out, it was the biggest digital program ever, which is insane to think about because nobody watches TV anymore.
It's also insane to think about because Torchwood gets cancelled pretty early into its lifespan.
Yeah, they kept on bumping Torchwood up. So first it was a BBC Three show, then obviously it was a BBC Two show. I mean, it became a BBC One show. Then it got a co-production with America, which is even bigger. I mean, it just kind of went away. I don't understand why. Like, at one point, BBC Two and BBC Three were constantly fighting to try and air the show first, which is really funny to imagine. So when I repeated on BBC Two a few days later, which was when I watched it, it got 2.8 million views. So that's like 6 million views altogether, basically, which is, again, big numbers for an adult spin-off. And yeah, that's all the facts I have for today.
Interesting stuff. So, I guess there's nothing left to do but buckle up, buckaroo, as we look at the first episode of Torchwood, which is titled Everything Changes.
Go on then. How the hell did you end up in Cardiff?
This is Torchwood 3. Torchwood 1 was London, destroyed in the battle. Torchwood 2 is an office in Glasgow, very strange man. Torchwood 3, Cardiff. Torchwood 4 has kind of gone missing, but we'll find it one day.
So you just fancied Cardiff?
There's a rift in space and time running right through the city. The Weevils didn't come in a spaceship. They kind of just slipped through. All sorts of things get washed up here. Creatures, time shifts, space junk, debris. Flotsam and jetsam.
Sounds like Cardiff, yeah.
Hey, don't knock it. I'm a citizen.
But where are you from?
All sorts of places.
Thing is, we could liaise on this. The serial killer, I could be like your liaison with the police.
Right, I can see the mistake. You think because we showed up at this scene of crime, we're out to catch the killer.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, nothing to do with us.
Then what were you doing there?
Testing the glove. We need murder victims, simple as that. The glove only works on the recently deceased, and the more violent the trauma, the stronger the resurrection. All we need is fresh meat.
No, you were asking that man, John Tucker. I saw you. You were asking him about his killer.
He'd just been murdered. What else are you gonna ask?
You could get an ID. You could help.
We're busy.
And your work is more important.
Now you got it.
Well, that's tough shit, because if you let me go, then I have a duty. I can tell them what you've got, because that glove could help us.
If you remember.
What do you mean?
How's your drink?
Have you poisoned me?
Don't be so dramatic. It's an amnesia pill. My own recipe with a touch of denial and a dash of retcon. Wake up tomorrow morning, you'll have forgotten everything about Torchwood. Worse still, you'll have forgotten me. Just kind of tragic.
So the episode begins with the intro. There's no cold open, no nothing. It's not even the intro that they keep. I've only seen the first 2 episodes, and the second episode has a different intro than this one. So
right. Does it? I don't remember.
Yeah, the second episode has Captain Jack being like, "This is Torchwood. You know, we do blah 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 and defeat aliens, and you've got to be ready for the 21st century."
Okay, yeah. Okay, there's an ice cream truck outside my house. Great. Wait for that to shut the fuck up. Who buys ice cream at 9 o'clock at night?
You do. Go get it.
Okay. What was I saying?
The intros are different.
Oh yeah, so episode 1 basically just opens up straight up on the intro. Then episode 2 is like the premise. I don't know what you call that thing. It's like a premise kind of.
Yeah,
tease.
it's explaining the show. Like
yeah, and then they do the cold open, and then the intro starts for real in episode 2. So yeah, the intro is in episode 2.
Yeah, it's weird though. What do you think about this intro?
I love it.
Do you?
Yes, I do.
Why?
I don't know. It's just nostalgia, my dude.
Yeah, I think it's fine. It doesn't remind me of Doctor Who in the slightest. It really, and you know, it's the purpose of the show. It reminds me of a cop drama.
Yeah.
Like it's very reminiscent of like you know, like an NCIS or something. It sounds like the music sounds like sirens. There's flashing lights. The logo's fine. It's you know, it's a cop show is what the intro gives me. It doesn't feel like Doctor Who at all. And if you were watching it and you just clicked on like, oh, what's this? See that intro? Oh, cop show. You would never ever associate that with Doctor Who.
Yeah, absolutely. The season 4 intro is probably the best one. I'm sending that to you now because obviously season 4 deals with like everyone being immortal basically, and when the season 4 intro is like a heartbeat, which is really cool concept. I think. Have you just watched that one? But yeah, I wish it would do like more things like that, just changing up the intro with every season. I think that's a cool idea.
Yeah, that's a fun intro. It reminds me more of a medical drama than anything. Especially with the like white background and the like almost no music, just the heartbeat. For that second intro you just sent me. But yeah, it's a fine intro.
Yeah, but
it's harmless.
Yeah, I love the intro. But the theme song is based loosely on music from Army of Ghosts, the season 2 final when we're in Torchwood, and you can hear that throughout like the last 2 episodes of season 2, which is a good callback. Like the music of this show is pretty consistent throughout. You never get away from it feeling like a different show entirely. It feels like Torchwood whenever you hear a song from it.
Oh yeah. It also feels like 2006. It is very like techno club, early 2000s music.
I love it. I think it's better than some of Murray Gold's later work because Ben Foster did this music, I believe his name is. And it works better than I Am the Doctor for sure.
You want to fight?
Yeah.
So the episode begins with a pan around Cardiff. It's Cardiff, isn't it?
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah. And then we eventually zoom in to a man who's lying in the rainy street, and we pan out to reveal that he has been stabbed dead, and there's blood on the ground. What? In Doctor Who, there's blood. As the police are investigating the body and things like that, we then get introduced to our main character, Gwen, who's decided she no longer wants to go on holiday with her cousin over the summer and is instead being as a Ben 10 joke.
All right, okay.
And she steals a policeman's coffee. She's a policeman officer herself, but she steals a coffee from another policeman, and then gets introduced to her policeman buddy, and they're like, "What happened? I don't know. He got stabbed."
Unlike Yaz, Gwen actually remembers that she used to be a police officer throughout the series.
That's true.
Which is something wild, because Chibnall sometimes forgets policeman officers, ladies.
It's so we were talking about this not recording, but it's so weird that Chibnall wrote a lot of Torchwood. He wrote a lot of episodes of Doctor Who. He wrote Broadchurch. He knows how to write really good things and knows characters and can remember all of this, and yet his seasons of Doctor Who have been really weak.
Yeah, Yaz remembers that she's a policeman officer lady 4 times throughout Doctor Who. Out of 22 episodes.
Yeah, basically never. And she's traveling in a police box, for God's sake. Everybody gets told to leave the body, and they walk away from it. And the police, Gwen, the police lady officer, is like, "What are you doing? Why are you leaving the body?" And she's talking to one of the forensic dudes, and he's like, "We were told to. There's people coming in." She's like, "Who's coming in?" "Torchwood." And then the credits roll. It was a weird episode. But no, Torchwood show up in their black car, and they all come out looking like they've just seen The Matrix for the first time.
Yeah, they're either in leather or just a long jacket. It's very 2006.
All black.
It's also like the X-Men as well, just everybody dressed in leather. It's
because The Matrix was popular.
Yeah, it's very sexy and badass.
Yeah, they approach the body, and Gwen's like, isn't there procedure? They're going to contaminate the evidence and things like that. To which the forensic man goes, "There's no procedures anymore. It's an effing disgrace." He swore. He said the F. He swore, Scott. I couldn't believe my ears.
That's actually a tactical swear. So Russell T. Davis was like, "I better add a swear word in the first 2 minutes, so parents know that this isn't for children," which is a smart move, because he would have gotten all the complaints for this episode.
Yeah, I mean, this episode's pretty harmless. It's a little bit violent. That's it. The next episode, he probably would have got more complaints about.
Yeah, but this episode was immediately followed by the sex gas episode.
Yeah. It was a double feature.
and yeah, somebody definitely complained in the newspaper, just being like, "This is not for children," and it's like, yeah, duh. you don't say.
Why do you think it's airing at nighttime?
Fucking love his soundtrack, though. How could you not love his soundtrack?
It's totally fine. It's like a almost forgettable soundtrack, but Gwen runs up a nearby car park to spy on Torchwood, as Captain Jack starts talking conspiracy theories for some reason. I thought his whole speech here was really confusing, where he's like, he can taste the estrogen in the rain because of the pills that people take, and then they go to the bathroom, they flush it, the estrogen, as part of that, and it goes into the system, it goes into the rain, and it's making people more effeminate, is what I thought he was getting at. It was a really weird speech.
I remember distinctly thinking, as a kid, just feeling like, this is something I'll understand when I'm older. I'm older, still don't really understand what the hell he's talking about.
Yeah, contraceptives in the rain, he says. And then he goes, at least I can't get pregnant.
Well, I think he says something like, I'm never getting pregnant again, which is in season 1 of Doctor Who, when the face of Bo is first revealed, we find out the face of Bo is pregnant. So he is the face of Bo, and he gets pregnant again. So
he
that's a
But
flat
when did
out
he get
lie.
pregnant the first time? That's the question.
Probably some kind of alien thing. Like Gwen later on in season 2 gets pregnant because of an alien thing. It's a weird episode.
Then lady whose name I don't remember, but she's definitely not the bad guy, puts on a metal glove, like knight's armor. It's like an armored glove. And is they're like telling her like hurry up and get it done, and we're like, what's she gonna do? I don't get it. What's the metal glove gonna do? Then the glove activates and she places it on the dead man's head. As suddenly all the rain around them stops, which was a thing that I really liked. I thought that was really cool. It makes it seem like there's something going on with this glove, rather than it just be like the guy being like, oh, I'm awake suddenly. And we see the light that's next to them get brighter as he suddenly jolts back to life. And this is the edgy show for adults. This is a really dark wee storyline, isn't it? Especially this character is so tragic.
It is, and there's no point. We later find out there's no point of him being resurrected at all. It's just to test a glove, which is really sad and desperate. It's like no last words for a family or anything like that. It's just a test for a glove. That's really sad.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they bring him back, and he's very confused and disorientated, and they start asking him questions like, how did you die? Did you see the killer? Did you see their face? And he's like, I got stabbed from behind. I didn't see them. And then they can only have him back for like 2 minutes, and they argue amongst themselves for a good minute and a half of that, being like, well, what do we ask him now? If you didn't see the killer, what's the point in this?
The Torchwood team arguing when something else is happening, something big is happening, is like a constant theme throughout the show. Like, there's a giant demon roaming around Cardiff, and half the episode is spent with a team arguing inside. Just the show is really weird like that.
I was just thinking, I doubt we'll get a Torchwood spin-off back, but I could definitely see, what was the agency called? The one with the Brigadier's daughter.
Unit,
yeah. I could see a Unit spin-off, definitely.
Well, you'll be happy to know that Big Finish already have a Unit spin-off.
Not Big Finish on the telly.
Unit is coming back next year, Phil.
Then there's the really interesting revelation that we get, where Captain Jack's talking with the man who's been brought back to life in the few moments that he's got left, where he's like, what did you see when you died? What was it like? And then he goes, there was nothing. Oh my God, there's nothing. And then he dies in a really, sad way. But I'm pretty sure that contradicts something established in Doctor Who. I forget. I think it was a Classic Who episode where somebody dies and gets brought back or something like that, and they're talking, and they're like, what was it like? It was like, oh, it was lovely. I can't wait to visit it again. And the Doctor's like, oh yes, I too look forward to visiting that place. I think it was a Pete Davidson episode that we were covering. I think it's Resurrection of the Daleks. I have the vaguest of memories of remembering saying heaven is now canon in Doctor Who.
Why don't I remember that? To be fair, Resurrection of the Daleks has like 30 different storylines in like half an hour.
I do remember saying that heaven was suddenly canon in Doctor Who, and then you were joking about the Missy thing, where she turned everyone into the cloud and said it was heaven. But now we have canonical proof that even if heaven was once true in Doctor Who, God has since left us.
Or maybe he just went to limbo for like the last half hour, or whatever, how long he's been dead. He just went to limbo, and limbo is just darkness.
Very possible. Very possible.
But yeah, I like how this is like 5 minutes in and we've already got a big theme throughout Torchwood established, like the theme of immortality, which is obviously, when you have Captain Jack, you need to have immortality to be a big theme of a show.
I never even picked up on Captain Jack wanting to know what's after death because he can't die. I never picked that up. That's a very good moment there.
Yeah, like every season, especially season 4, is about immortality, which I really like. Season 4 itself is a bit shit, but
Then a moment that I really, really liked. The man dies again, and they start bickering amongst themselves. Like, God damn it, this is never going to work. We're never going to get any information out of these bodies. And they like talk about the last corpse they looked at, where they didn't tell him he was dead. They said he was injured, and he wasted the whole 2 minutes crying for an ambulance. And they're trying to they're like arguing, like, oh God, we don't know how we would handle it. And Captain Jack looks up to Gwen and goes, "What do you think?" I loved that moment of he just knew she was looking in on him the whole time.
Yeah, it's such a great reveal. Just there's no indication that Captain Jack or anybody knew she was up there. Just a great reveal at the end. And of course, Gwen has a very real reaction after this. Like she has to run away and just puke in the corner.
Then Gwen goes back home, and we get a view of her domestic life, which we actually visit quite a lot in this episode, where she's with her boyfriend.
Yeah, boyfriend.
Or
fiance. I can't remember which happened first, but yeah, boyfriend or fiance. Reese.
Reese. And they're just talking about the murder, and then like what his day was like and things like that. It's a good way of letting us relate to this as being like, you are a human being, you have a whole life. And I quite liked them together as a couple. I don't know if they stay together. I assume they don't.
They do.
Oh, they do.
Yes.
Interesting. Very surprising.
Yes, very surprising, since this whole show is centered around people cheating on each other. Like every character cheats on somebody else, which is, but that's like season 1. Season 1 is all about cheating on each other, which is weird. But yeah, I just like Reese just being like a mundane, normal guy, because that's a representation of like just her mundane, regular life that she wants to kind of escape from, which is very much like Rose in Rose.
Yeah. He says that there's Chinese food in the fridge, and in the next episode they all eat Chinese food at the table together. And like I was watching this at like 10 o'clock at night. I was like, oh my God, I would die for some Chinese food right now.
I believe we eat Chinese food quite a lot in this show, or pizza.
Oh, I'd eat it right now. God, I would love some Chinese food.
Also, just another thing about, okay, we kind of cut to Gwen. She can't sleep at night. And then we have establishing shots of Cardiff, and we're centered on like a police station. And if you notice, there's a bird flying, and we end the shot just as the bird lands on top of a building, and that's a definite deliberate choice. And I think I kind of like that.
I didn't notice that at all, but yeah, that's fun.
It's kind of like the smallest of touches, which I think that shows like good editing. It's like a good scene transition.
Oh yeah, so they do. It's like the bird arrives at the police station, and then we go inside. We also arrive. Mm-hmm. If you really want to dissect it.
The editing on this episode is pretty good overall.
Yeah, it's it's mid 2000s TV editing,
definitely,
but it's fine.
Yeah, I'm not comparing it to today's standard, but yeah, it's for a TV show in 2006 that's on BBC Three, the lowest channel ever.
Yeah,
pretty good editing. They care about this show.
Yeah, but Gwen passes a colleague, a superior. I guess she's a superior? I could never tell. Another policeman officer lady, and she's like, hey, is there could you find a Captain Jack Harkness for me? And she's like, go through the proper channels. I'm not in charge of doing that. And she's like, but do it. And then, they go their separate ways, which is something that'll come back later. It's important for later on in the episode.
Yeah, we're definitely setting up our pieces pretty well in this episode so far. So Gwen's been in the police station for like a minute now. This is more time Gwen's been a police officer than Yaz in like 2 seasons.
Yeah. But she's like handing out teas to the other policeman officer people as they're going over the murder case that's happened, and we find out that there's been like 3 or 4 other stabbings in Cardiff that they're currently investigating. So, it's Cardiff's become quite the violent city all of a sudden. Then we cut to Gwen with her policeman officer partner as they're climbing out of their policeman officer car and walking across the street, and they're talking like, what is Torchwood? What even is it? And the partner has the great guess that he's like, I bet you 10 quid it's DNA, which I was like, that's a solid guess. He's like, I bet they're DNA specialists. Everything's a DNA specialist nowadays. And he makes a joke about kebabs.
Yeah, I kind of like that joke.
It's a fun joke. Kebabs are always great. And then they walk into a pub where it is like, I don't know, I assumed it was morning time, but it's very bright outside. They go into the pub. There's just a full-on brawl going on. Being the policemen officers that they are, never backing down from a fight, they join in. They're like, this looks fun. And Gwen ends up getting her head bashed against a wall.
Which, when the first time I watched this, I wasn't really sure what her hitting her head does for the plot, but I guess it kind of advances the, oh, she's going kind of crazy angle we're going for near the end of the episode.
Yeah, that's a good way of looking at it. I look at it mainly as a bit of filler, with the banging of the head, sort of, you hit your head, you forget things. It could be like planting that seed of forgetting things and things like that comes into play later. But yeah, the thing that I had with this episode, it's a pretty decent episode, but they really stretch the plot for this one particularly.
Yeah,
because they're establishing everything.
100%. It's not as fast paced as, say, Rose in Doctor Who. But also her getting concussion really shows how shit her job is. Just her being dealt with like the lowest of the lows in terms of crime, and she has to get her hands onto it. Just really sounds shit.
Yeah, and she leaves the doctor's office after getting her head examined, and is walking down the corridors when she sees a jacket that looks awfully like Captain Jack's jacket. Say that, Captain Jack's jacket. It looks like Captain Jack's jacket as he's running up the stairs, and she's like, "Oh boy, that's Captain Jack. I'm gonna chase after him."
Also, this reminds me of Rose in just after Rose meets the Doctor for the first time, she kind of keeps seeing him wherever she goes, which is something that happens to Gwen in this episode.
But she makes it to the top of the stairs, and she sees that they've been closed off, and she's like, "Oh, what?" And she just so happens a janitor's walking by at the same time, and she's like, "Hey, Mr. Janitor, why are these doors closed off?" And he's like, "I don't know, I thought you did it. They told me it was like I think he says it's like poisonous gas or something like that, and it's like toxic chemicals was the reason that it got closed off." She goes into the doors, and she suddenly becomes blind for a very long time.
To be fair on her, it kind of looks like a human from a very far distance.
Does it?
Yes.
Does it though? I feel like the lack of any facial features really give it away.
Yeah, but she's really far away, isn't she?
Is she? Is she really far away, or is she like just down the corridor?
Also, she thinks it's probably like a Halloween mask or something, which is a fair assumption.
Yeah, when she gets up close and she sees the face, but at this distance, she's like, "That's a regular-looking human." She needs glasses because we're looking at it from her perspective on the camera, and you're like, "Yeah, that's not human."
Well, if you're living your regular life and you just saw a monster in the distance and it kind of looks humanoid.
This is a world where everybody decides not to think about the giant alien spaceships that fly above the town every now and then, which they even mention in either this episode or the next one, where they're like, "Well, why don't you ever? What's it take to convince you aliens are real?" They're just attacking everything. The big battle in London with the Cybermen and the Daleks, and they're like, "It's just hallucinations, isn't it? They're not real."
Well, the Weevils were designed to look like a deformed ape, to look like it's not too far removed from the real world, which is a valid reason to why Gwen doesn't see it as a monster. But,
I think the makeup for them is great, though. Like,
yes.
It is a really, really good-looking costume.
And this is a recurring villain throughout the first 2 seasons, and you need to make it look great, and it looks really solid. It really does.
Then Gwen starts talking to the alien, asking where Captain Jack is, and thinking it's an alien mask, and it's like, "Okay, come on, start talking to me." And she has the great line where she's like, "It's all good fun playing silly buggers," which is extremely Welsh. I don't think we've actually mentioned that yet. This is the most Welsh show I've ever seen.
Same here. I think it's the only Welsh show I've ever seen, apart from Boomtown from Doctor Who. Like, that's the first. This is like the first Welsh exposure I've ever seen.
Yeah, Welsh accents left and right.
Like most of the cast isn't Welsh, but everyone else is just Welsh.
Then the janitor guy comes back, and he's like, "Yeah, I don't know why this place was sealed off." you know, you didn't do it, we didn't do it, and there's no chemicals up here, so it's a bit strange. And then he also notices the alien, and he's like, you should get plastic surgery, you're so ugly. Which was an interesting thing for him to say. Then he gets really impressed by the way the alien looks, and he's like, wow, it's like Hellraiser. It's you know, it's a really good looking costume. Look at those teeth. You know, it's like Red Riding Hood talking to the wolf.
Do you think the special effects guy was happy with his dialogue, being like, yeah, it is a good looking costume, isn't it? I worked really hard on that.
Yeah, and then the alien bites into the neck of the janitor man, and it turned out the whole time he was made of jam, as the most syrupy looking blood starts exploding out of his neck.
And again, it's just weird seeing blood in a Doctor Who universe related thing. It still doesn't feel right to me. Almost, it's weird.
Yeah, it's definitely strange seeing blood in the Doctor Who universe. And you know, it makes you question how the Doctor avoids blood all the time. But yeah. I guess the most of the villains the Doctor fights turns people into skeletons.
Maybe the TARDIS uses like a perception filter to be like, okay, the Doctor cannot handle blood. Let's just remove all blood from his eyes.
Yeah, the Doctor lives life in PG.
Yes. Every swear word was going to be replaced with the word Geronimo or something.
When the alien bites into the janitor, suddenly Torchwood bursts from all the doors and capture the alien as Jack grabs Gwen and is running out of the room with her. My question was, why didn't they intervene beforehand?
Same question I was going to ask you. It doesn't make any sense, does it? Apart from just to add dramatic edge to it.
Well, the only thing I can think is, you know, knowing the characters that the Torchwood agency have, they were all standing there watching just to see what would happen.
Yeah,
like literally just to be like, I wonder what's going to happen if they're talking to this guy.
Yeah, that's probably likely. I mean, they're not very good at their jobs, I would say. Like next episode, one of the characters almost gets raped, and the other guy is just like, "Oh yeah, let's just watch this in a computer monitor."
Yeah.
Very bizarre show.
Then we are outside with Gwen as she sees the black Torchwood car speed past her. She chases after it, gets into her own police car and drives off. And a line that I really enjoyed is her partner is out eating lunch and walking towards the car as she zips off without him. He just goes, "Oi!"
I do love Andy, her policeman officer partner. But I also love the fact that the Torchwood van just has a Torchwood logo on it. I'm not sure if it's visible in this episode, but every time you see the van afterwards, it just has a Torchwood logo on the side. Very secretive, you know.
It's like S.H.I.E.L.D.
Yeah.
And also Unit. They all just brand themselves with everything.
like the Torchwood hub later on just has a Torchwood logo plastered on the wall. It's weird.
Then she ends up on the phone with her friend from earlier, who's like, "Oh, I looked into Captain Jack Harkness, and there's 1 billion." I think she says 15, which
yes,
is you round up to 1 billion.
Yeah.
And she's like, "There's loads of people with the name Jack or John Harkness. You know, they're all over the place, but no captains. The only captain was an American soldier from World War II." And, you know, she's like, "Oh, yeah, he's American. That's probably him. Except World War II. How could that be? Oh, confusing."
And just imagining people watching Torchwood without ever seeing Doctor Who. This is a genuine mystery to them, which is kind of fun to imagine.
Yeah, but who, right? I really doubt the audience of people watching Torchwood, at least the debut episode, who weren't already aware of Doctor Who.
True, but we wouldn't know Captain Jack, right? Like if we just knew, if we would know Doctor Who for the Doctor, the TARDIS, Daleks, maybe Cyberman. That's basically about it.
Maybe it depends if they were watching the new series. Which, if they're watching this, I would hazard a guess they are, because this is on BBC 3, later BBC 2 as well. But you know, Doctor Who when it came back was big, so it was pretty hard to miss.
I went to school with somebody who refused to watch Doctor Who because it's for kids, but she watched Torchwood, which I was like,
So you went to school with an idiot. So did we all.
Like whenever I said I watched Doctor Who, she would just sing the theme song very pedantically to me. That was fun. I got bullied because of that. And I was like, but you watched Torchwood. It's the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah, you deserved it, though.
So there's something I want to point out to you when... let's just hold on to it. You know the shot where you... After the establishing shot of the Torchwood base, and you see the black van kind of pass the camera, and the police car is following after it. If you look in the background, you'll see a Doctor Who logo, because across the street is the Doctor Who Exposition Centre. And it's in Torchwood. Do you see it at all?
Really? Hang on, I'm gonna go back and see if I can spot this.
And I'll see if I can share my screen for you. God damn it, how do I do it again?
Oh yeah, there it is, isn't it? Yeah, the
You can see
Doctor
a
Who
Dalek
logo with a Dalek. That's great.
Do you think we ever noticed that mistake?
Yeah. Probably not when they were filming it, but they probably noticed it in the edit and then went, "Oh my god, how did we miss that?"
It's fucking amazing how it made it to shot. It's like,
yeah. Well, you know, if it came out nowadays, they would just go back in digitally remove it. But back in 2006, you just got to live with your mistakes.
But yeah, Doctor Who is a fictional show in the Torchwood universe. How about that?
You know, I could buy that. You know, given everything that's happened in the Doctor Who universe, it's like with Marvel, how the Marvel comics exist with the Marvel superheroes. You know, so it's like Captain America is a superhero, but he also has Captain America comics, is because instead of they're like fictionalized stories based on real life, and there would be rumors. You know, like it's not canon because they undo time, but in the season 3 finale, when Martha's going around telling everybody about the Doctor, you know, it would be sort of that thing where there's these rumors about the Doctor person saving the day from all these alien invasions we don't want to remember.
Right, but if we're going by that theory, the Daleks is in the Doctor Who show, and nobody ever goes to a Dalek and be like, "You're from that TV show, aren't you? I'm your biggest fan."
Here's the thing, right? It's Doctor Who's a TV show in the world Doctor Who, but it's not a popular one.
Okay.
So nobody watches it.
But it's popular enough to have an exposition about it.
Well, it's just marketing. They're trying their hardest, you know?
And I wonder why Jack's never like, "Oh, that's weird. I know that creature. just across from a Torchwood hub. Why is there a Dalek sign there?"
Yeah. You know, maybe it's not a Dalek. Maybe it's a new brand Hoover. You don't know.
It's amazing. There's like 20 people on set. Nobody noticed that. Nobody was like...
To be fair, it's pretty far in the distance. Maybe they thought they could get away with it. You know, it's for like one shot. It's not in focus. Maybe they thought they could escape it.
Or maybe it was done intentionally just to be like, "Oh, it's an Easter egg."
Yeah, could be. Gwen parks the car in tourist place in Cardiff as the Torchwood team are walking off. She's following and shouting after them. And then a security guard who's really determined to follow his job to the letter comes up to her and he's like, "You've got to move your car." And she's like, "I'm the police." And he's like, I don't care. You have to move your car." Which, if there was like an emergency or something, you know, I feel like she could park her car there.
Pretty much, but I guess in this case there's
like,
not an emergency.
I guess, but you know, there's been like 4 stabbings in the city in the past week. Yeah.
It's Cardiff.
Yeah. But then when she turns her head back to look at the Torchwood people, they've suddenly vanished. Dun dun dun.
I kind of love the location we chose for Torchwood because obviously it's a place where the Doctor parks his TARDIS for gas or whatever we call it. It's a perfect location.
The rift in time and space that fuels the TARDIS and never gets fueled again.
Yeah. I wonder if Russell T Davies will bring it back. Be like, I don't know. Will he bring it back?
Maybe, but you know, you could just say it needs fueled like every 4,000 years or something.
True.
But you know, it really goes to show how much seeds in Doctor Who were planted just to promote Torchwood. Like, from the building up of Torchwood to the creation of Torchwood that we see in Doctor Who to just little locations like this. Like, everything Doctor Who was doing that wasn't the main plot line was, like, helping create Torchwood. It was doing something else for the show, which is just very good forward thinking.
There's a lot of connective tissue between the shows, which is something you wouldn't say about Class, apart from the school being called the same. And
it's the school that Clara worked in and that what's her face went to, isn't it?
Yeah, but they changed it to be a high school because like the one from the classic series was a primary school, and then between Clara went there as a teacher. I mean, I guess it got torn down. I don't know. Makes no sense.
I've not seen Class, so I don't know.
Can't wait to do our podcast on Class.
Our pod class.
Oh.
And then Gwen's back in the car talking on the radio, and she finds out that there's no car with the same registration as the Torchwood car anywhere. And then somebody opens up her door and sits next to her, and we're like, oh no. And we find out that it's her policeman officer partner who goes, I bloody walked, which is just great.
And it's a very Welsh thing to complain about the weather. I think it's a universal kind of British thing to complain about the weather.
It's either too hot or too cold. There's no in between.
Absolutely. So Eve Miles kind of like tells her policeman officer sidekick Andy about Torchwood and what she's doing here, and it kind of sounds like she's trying to suppress her Welsh accent, kind of like she's trying to.
To me, it was the most Welsh scene in the episode.
No, usually I think she's more Welsh, but here she's like trying to enunciate her words.
The way she was enunciating made it sound more Welsh to me. Like, but she's like talking about how the janitor was killed, and she's trying to find Torchwood, but they're not here. And the policeman officer partners, like, everyone in the hospital is being accounted for. They're all like at work where they're supposed to be. No one is missing, which comes back later when we find out that Torchwood changed the records to make the janitor basically just vanish for 3 days. Which is it's again good plot structure. Good mysteries and payoff.
And then to end the scene, we get a CCTV camera footage, which comes into play later on, which is again a good setup for the final of the episode.
Then she goes home for like a hot second, was her boyfriend / fiance / partner is like, oh, I made dinner, and then he makes fun of the French for a bit, as she's like, oh, I've got to work, I'm sorry, I should have said beforehand. And then she leaves the house again. It was almost a pointless scene.
But it's a pointless scene, but it kind of comes into play later, like foreshadows events that come later in the season, where he kind of becomes jealous of how much time she's spending at Torchwood, which is a reasonable jealousy because it turns out she's cheating on him, which is, yeah. But yeah, it comes into play later as a good character setup.
Then Gwen is standing again outside the Torchwood headquarters, or where she assumes it to be, and she sees a pizza delivery guy drive past, and she's like, I'm hungry, and walks off, as we see that she's yet again being watched in the CCTV. And then she walks into a pizzeria, and she's like, is there... what is it she exactly says? It's like on the register or something? Hang on. People on the list. I guess this delivery keeps a list of its regular customers on the register, which I thought was a bit weird, but whatever, it's there. And she asks this pizzeria to look for Captain Jack Harkness, which he does, and he doesn't find any. And she's about to leave, and then she goes, what about Torchwood? And the guy doesn't even need to search. He's like, oh yeah, we deliver to Torchwood all the time. Which I really, really enjoy.
I like it just because of how dumb it is for like a secret organization to order pizza under the name Torchwood.
I really like when that reveal comes, and I don't remember the character's name, but the science guy.
Yes, Owen.
Yeah, Owen, when they're like, Captain Jack's like, who's been ordering pizza under Torchwood? And he's like, oh, that was me, I'm the twat.
Yeah, it's a good representation of how dumb Torchwood is, but in the best possible way. It's a very fun kind of dumb.
Yeah, it's like a secret organization that just shouldn't be a secret. Like, everybody should be aware of who they are.
100%, and all the employees are just incompetent to the highest degree.
Yeah, it's a wonder why in canon Torchwood got shut down, isn't it? Like, and why the much more proficient unit took over.
But unit wound up getting underfunded in like the Dalek New Year special, which I don't agree with. I think that's a stupid idea, but it's coming back next year, so we'll see what happened.
I am hungry for both pizza and Chinese food and want both of them right now. Oh.
Yeah, it does make me hungry too. And I'm surprised there's no joke about Jack ordering extra sausage pizza.
Like it does seem like a very joke they would make.
100%. It just feels unnatural. I am hungry for extra sausage pizza now.
Then Gwen is like on like a boardwalk or something. I don't really know where she is. I guess it's close to the landmark that the place is. I don't know Cardiff. I've never been. And she walks into this like touristy place with the pizzas. As we meet, what's his face?
Yanto.
Yeah, that's not a name.
It's kind of like Ian, but add a toe at the end.
Yeah, sure. And then Gwen's like, oh, I have a pizza. Sorry, it's a bit late. And he's like, who's it for? And she's like, oh, it's for Mr. J. Harkness. And he's like, oh, well, okay, go on through then. And opens up the secret door to Torchwood, which, you know, when I was watching this, I was like, they just let anybody into the Torchwood with the pizza? This is a bit silly, but it does have a payoff that works really, really well.
But also, do you remember the end of season 4 where the Daleks wind up in the Torchwood base?
Yes.
Did they have to go through this door? Like, they just wind up through this, like, corridor, but
they
Gwen
just kind of end up there, don't they? Yeah, they just kind of end up there, and then, like, all of Torchwood get, like, murdered. Which, had Torchwood been cancelled at that point? Is that why they killed off all the characters?
They didn't kill off any of the characters in that episode.
Didn't they? I remember characters dying. Maybe it's just Jack gets killed a bunch.
I think you're high. I think you're high. But yeah, there was only 2 members left over apart from Jack in that episode. That's because the end of season.
That's why. Because Torchwood's like most of them have died by that point.
Yes, 100%. What is your favorite pizza topping?
Pineapple.
Oh yes! Now you're talking. Everyone hates pineapple. I love pineapple.
I don't get why it's hated. I adore pineapple. My favorite, right? This might seem a bit gross to you now. I might push your boundaries a bit here. Pizza I adore getting is regular tomato and cheese base, pineapple, and jalapeno.
Okay,
It is a delicious comment, and if you want to get a stuffed crust while you're at it, why not? But that's a delicious pizza right there.
I can get jiggy with that. Is that what we say? Get jiggy with it? Is that what the kids say?
I don't know. What's your favorite pizza?
I just like all pizza, to be honest.
Yeah, I like all pizza as well. But if I had to choose one, it would be pineapple with jalapeno.
I like sausage pizza. Sausage and pepperoni. That's a good pizza.
Oh, sausage and sausage.
Oof. We did a KFC pizza at Pizza Hut a while back. That was delicious. It's a good time. Yeah.
I don't eat meat, so I don't know.
Well, it's a good episode about meat and Torchwood.
Then Gwen walks through some secret tunnels for a while and arrives at the Torchwood base as she sees people working away at their machines and the doors close behind her. And then we see David Tennant's hand, which is just another thing of, setting the framework for Torchwood off a tiny part of Doctor Who and for setting up like the whole Captain Jack storyline of him trying to find the Doctor again.
Yeah, literally season 1 of this show ends with the hand starting bubbling. I mean, oh my god, the TARDIS is outside. And that leads up to the season 3 final of Doctor Who, which is a great way to do a crossover. And of course, the hand gets used at the end of season 4 of Doctor Who as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like just that one event from David Tennant's literally first episode where he gets his hand cut off in a duel. It becomes a massive plot point, which is just little things like that I really miss in Doctor Who.
And it makes complete sense why Torchwood would have it. It falls from the sky. It's an alien artifact, basically.
Yeah, and
100 makes sense.
Yeah, and Captain Jack's immortal and trying to find the doctor to try and like figure out why this has happened. The motivations as to why Captain Jack values the hand make sense. Like, it's very well thought out.
I don't think I quite twigged that it was the Doctor's hand when I first watched it. I don't think it was that obvious, but it obviously is obvious now in hindsight.
Yeah, when we've got the whole story together. Yeah.
What do you think of the Torchwood hub in general, folks? I really, really like this set.
It's a decent set. It's very, underground secret government base set. Like, that's what it looks like. It looks like an underground base. If you imagine an underground secret base, that's what it looks like.
But I just like how it looks very alien, but like earthly at the same time. It looks lived in. It looks really solid. It's a good set, and there's also a pterodactyl flying around.
There is a pterodactyl flying around, which at the end of the episode they let out to fly around the city for some reason.
but then it comes back and fights a Cyberwoman, so I don't know what the story is there.
It just needed to stretch its wings.
But isn't it having a pterodactyl around all this technology kind of dangerous? What happens if it pisses on one of the computers or something?
Get a new one. I'm sure the risk is worth it when you can say that you have a pterodactyl flying around the building.
Yeah. like do they ever feed it or play with it? Like, just go out
they
and
just let it out, and they just let it out. It's like a cat, just let it out, and then it'll come back in a few days.
Does it play fetch? Does it roll over?
The CGI for that pterodactyl reminded me exceptionally of Primeval.
Yes.
Like, it looked straight out of Primeval.
Also, I don't think any of the characters actually reference the pterodactyl ever. Like, it's just flying around for no reason. I don't think it survives season 1 either. It just goes away after a while.
It escaped. Gwen is walking around the base, and no one's paying any mind to her. She's walking past all of the characters of Torchwood and heading towards Captain Jack. And then suddenly we start hearing laughter, which this bit really got me. I really enjoyed this whole joke that they're playing here.
Yeah, it really shows off like the juvenile tone of the Torchwood team. Like, they aren't professional at all, but yet at the same time are kind of endearing.
Yeah, where we find out that they were all pretending not to see Gwen. They didn't expect her to deliver pizza, and Captain Jack was working on a whole routine with her where he's like, I didn't order the pizza, I don't have any money on me, and it was going to be this whole big thing. But what's his face? Owen?
Yes, Owen.
Owen ruins it by laughing too early. And it's a very good bit that does go on for about 5 minutes in this episode.
Yeah, and Owen is also eating Chinese, and it's just like...
Yeah, and also when Gwen puts the pizza down later on in a few minutes, just before the camera cuts, you can see Owen get up to grab it.
They are a hungry team.
This is also where we find out the information that Torchwood have basically erased the janitor man's life from the day and has made him like not go to work and vanish, and that his body will be discovered in 3 days' time. It's kind of implied that they're making it look like a suicide. Mm-hmm. is what I took from it. And Gwen is like horrified by this, but it really shows the level of detachment that the Torchwood team have grown, which is a playing factor in for later episodes as well, where they're like, it's just my job, I don't really care. I don't really care. It's just what I do, isn't it?
Yeah. There is an amazing season 2 episode written by Chris Chibnall that 100% goes down this route. Gwen discovers something that the Torchwood team tried to dig up, or put away, whatever the phrase is.
Bury.
Yes.
The opposite of digging up.
But yeah, she digs up something that the Torchwood team tried to hide, and yeah, it goes very deep into why the Torchwood team needed to hide this information. I'm not going to spoil it because it really hits. It's really a deep episode and it hurts a lot. It's a sad episode for sure, but it's one of Chris Chibnall's best episodes. I think it's called Adrift in season 2. It's very good.
Yeah, so Captain Jack explains, like, we're Torchwood, this is just what we do, and Gwen's like, oh, I'm a policeman officer, you can't do anything to me, And he's like, well, okay, well, do you want to come look at the alien with me? And Gwen puts down the pizza to go with him. And if you keep watching, just before the camera cuts, you see Owen run across the frame to grab the pizza.
Yeah. Okay. It's a hungry boy.
It's not free pizza, isn't it?
Yeah.
And then as Gwen's walking, she's like, what is Torchwood? What is this place? And then we hear a kia as the pterodactyl flies above their heads. And the lady's like, she's like, what was that? She's like, oh, that's pterodactyl. She plays like no mind to it, just totally like shrugging it off. I was like, yeah, it's a pterodactyl, whatever. Then Captain Jack explains what the Weevil is, how they're aliens that, you know, live in the sewers, and occasionally they will come up and kill a person, but most of the time they stay in the sewers eating the poops, going yum yum yum. It's a fine scene. I was just like running along the timeline of this episode. There's not a lot of plot left, yet there's still 20 minutes of episode left. They spend a long time with the memory forget part.
Oh yeah, they definitely do, and that's probably the weakest part of the episode, in my opinion. But I just caught on the Weevils kind of remind me of Vermin, the Spider-Man villain. I'm sure friend of the show Ewan is listening and being like, oh, I recognized Vermin, because I know he's a big Spider-Man fan. But yeah, just the idea of just a creature under the sewers just feeding on rats and all that. That's a very Vermin kind of thing.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with the character Vermin, but he sounds like a rat.
The best Vermin storyline is included in Kraven's Lost Hunt, which is a great Spider-Man story. Definitely worth a read.
Then we get a pretty good scene where Captain Jack lets Gwen just look at the Weevil. Is that what they were called? Weevils?
Yeah.
It sounded wrong coming out my mouth saying it there. I don't know why. And he's like, it's an alien. Look into its eyes. It was born in another world. Take all the time you need. And it's just a nice little like slow scene of Gwen staring at this alien in the face. And then we cut to Captain Jack introducing everybody in Torchwood to Gwen. Where he's like, this is Owen. He's like, oh, it's Dr. Owen. Thank you very much. He's introducing everybody's names. And then he says something to... what's his face?
Yanto.
Where he's like, this is, he cleans up after us, he does all these things, and he looks good in a suit. And then Yanto's like, careful, that's harassment, ha ha ha. And I went, oh, yikes.
Yeah, considering what we know about John Barrowman now, is very awkward. It's very awkward. But I guess it's okay because we're dating in this show, so it's a jokey kind of situation. It's not serious, but just the stink of John Barrowman kind of affects this episode, I think.
Yeah, and it's a shame because I really feel like, not to go too much into it, but John Barrowman really just needs to apologize and own up to it. Yeah. But he just digs himself a hole every time.
Or digs up a hole, as I would say.
Yeah. He just keeps digging, though. He just keeps going lower and lower. And it's like, dude, just like take a step back and realize what you were doing.
Yeah, just take like 2 months off, come back, apologize. I think I speak for most of us. I think we're ready to forgive him, but the more he digs himself into the hole, it just makes the situation worse.
Yeah, it's not, what he did was awful. If you're not aware of the allegations against him, he kept flashing people on set. That's the allegations against him, is he kept just whapping out his dong, which not a cool move, not a cool move at all. It is not to the same level as like the allegations against Noel Clarke.
No, not at all.
And so like easily it is a forgivable action. It was 20 odd years ago, or almost 20 odd years ago, like 15 or so, but he just keeps making it worse for himself, which whatever, it's his life.
Yeah 100%. The good thing is the show's kind of moved on from Captain Jack at this point, and I don't think we'll ever see him back.
Has it moved on from Captain Jack? I feel like the past 2 seasons were like, oh my god, look, Captain Jack.
True, you have a good point there.
Captain Jack gives everyone a bunch of orders and tells Gwen to follow with him. And Gwen's like, I'm getting tired of following you. And Jack's the great line where he's like, you won't and you never will, which is a good line of seeding the rest of the series. Like,
yeah, 100%. It's a great line.
Yeah, and then he's like, come stand on this rock with me. And Gwen does, and they stand on the rock, and it turns out to be the world's slowest elevator.
and it hasn't aged very well at all. It's not great CGI, or green screen, I should say.
Yeah, it's not great as we watch the stone above get removed, and it's quite the big CG job for a 2006 TV show.
Mm-hmm. On BBC Three for that. This is like the most expensive BBC Three show ever.
But they end up in front of the landmark thing that she watched Torchwood disappear at earlier, which explains how they vanish so quickly. And you may question, like, how could they vanish so quickly if the elevator is so incredibly slow moving? Well, that also gets answered, which I do appreciate, because if they were just like, yeah, that's how we vanish so quick, it's because we use this elevator, I would call it out because it's the incredibly slow moving elevator. But they do go and they're like, no, there's a perception filter here. If we're standing on this rock, nobody can see us. You can shout at them, you can call them. And, well, like, they explain perception filters several different times in both this series and Doctor Who series, like, 1 to 4, where they're like, perception filter, you can kind of see it, but your mind doesn't want you to see it. It's a pretty cool concept.
Yeah, the way they explained it in Doctor Who was you can see it at the side of your eyes, but you don't ever want to focus on that.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's supposed to be the spot where the TARDIS lands into fuel, so that's why the perception filter is there. Except for the fact that they accidentally went into the wrong spot. That's not the spot where the TARDIS lands in the show. I think it's like a couple of feet off, but
Well, it's a good thing that it got cancelled. It's a good thing Torchwood got cancelled. With mistakes like that, oh my god. I hope someone got fired for that blunder.
So Gwen is like, but what if anybody steps on that while the elevator is going up, and then Jack is like, what does Jack say again?
He's like, that's how you know we're in Wales, because you question everything or something like that. Yeah.
So in my notes I've wrote these words exactly. What happens if anyone else steps on that? And then after that note I said, Jack makes fun of me.
My assumption would be you would never step on it accidentally because of the perception filter. It wouldn't even register to you as a place to step, or when there's like no ground in it, in your head you would know that there's no ground there. You just wouldn't be conscious of knowing that fact because of the perception filter. That's how I would explain it. But I also like Captain Jack's explanation of "shut up, stupid."
It's a very knowing wink to the audience, being like, please don't question us. I know this makes no sense, but just don't question us. But I wonder what happens if like a kid is playing with his ball and the ball winds up going down there. Like, does a kid go after it?
That's how you join Torchwood, actually.
It's like a whole Pennywise situation.
Yeah.
But I do love whenever Doctor Who's like, I know you in the audience will have questions about this. Just shut up. Enjoy the ride.
Yeah, the exact line is, I show you something fantastic, you find a fault. Which is definitely just talking to the audience.
Yes.
Then we cut to Gwen having a big old gulp of a very nice looking pint of beer as Captain Jack sips his water and stares at her. And then she's like, okay, here's what I don't get. And Captain Jack's like, no, shut up. Here's what I don't get. And he basically just reiterates all of my issues with the Doctor Who canon, where he's like, how come you people don't believe in aliens still?
Yes.
All this stuff happens and you still refuse to believe in aliens. What do you need to do to believe in aliens? Which is a great thing to question, because it is the biggest issue with Doctor Who, is aliens exist and are very clearly exist, and still nobody believes they exist. And Gwen answers it by being like, oh, it's like hallucinations and things like that. It's like trying to reason it, which doesn't quite work, but I guess it's a reason at least.
Yeah, she says that's her boyfriend's theory. And if you remember last week when we did Invasion of the Bane, That's the theory as well in Invasion of the Bane. Everybody drinks the Bane juice and turns into zombies. And the theory is the Bane juice contains a chemical that makes everyone hallucinate everything at the same time. Even though when people hallucinate, they usually have different hallucinations. It's not of the same thing.
Yeah, very true. Very true. Yeah, although I would really like it in Doctor Who if in like these next seasons the public's just open to aliens, you know? It's just, let's just go like full sci-fi. Let's no longer ground the show in modern day because we don't need to. We no longer let's go into more sci-fi fantastical Earth where people believe in aliens. Hell, even have aliens living on Earth. Explore what you could do with that rather than just resetting and everyone forgot.
Yeah, but that would kind of change the show's entire canon. But
yeah, it would be wild. It would be wild and fun.
It would be, yeah. It's the same thing with Buffy, though. Like, everyone lives in Sunnydale, but they never know that vampires actually exist.
Yeah, but, you know, the vampires never fly a giant spaceship above them all and go, we are here. We are here.
Well, actually, in Season 6, Episode 22...
I thought that was serious.
No, it never happened. I mean, their mayor did turn into a snake person at one point.
Yeah, but everyone knows people in the government are lizard people anyway, so that was no surprise.
Or in Doctor Who case, everyone's like a Slovene. They have big claws and very cute looking eyes. I think the Slovene are actually kind of cute with their eyes. Just
I don't.
Especially a baby Slovene in Sarah Jane Adventures. We're kind of cute.
And then Captain Jack basically explains the premise of the show, where he's like, you know, we don't just stop aliens, but we take some of their technology because the 21st century is when everything changes and you've got to be ready, which plays into my new fan theory of making the canon, you know, change with the public are aware of aliens, because the 21st century is where it all changes. Captain Jack said it. I have Doctor Who canon to back up my half-baked idea. Which, if that's not Doctor Who in a nutshell, I don't know what is.
That's something that Captain Jack says 100 times throughout the show, and it never really makes sense because nothing ever changes. Like, everything's kind of the same.
Yeah, and also he can see the future.
Well, he came from the future, actually. He came from the 51st century.
True. That's that's a fair point. But
and plus he traveled around time for a bit with his time agency.
Yeah, so what exactly changes in this century?
Nobody ever knows. We never find out. The show went off the air before we ever found out. and he's like, you got to be ready. Be ready for what? Explain. You can't just tell somebody to be ready and then never explain what to be ready for.
But they haven't figured it out yet. And thankfully they won't have to. Then Captain Jack goes on to explain how they're above governments, above the UN, above everything, because these people can't be trusted with that stuff. And Gwen's like, but you have that stuff. How can you be trusted? And he's like, well, you know, no one's allowed to take it off base. And then we immediately cut to someone taking it off base.
It kind of shows what Captain Jack is kind of an incompetent boss.
Then he goes on to explain that this is Torchwood 3. Torchwood 1 was London, where they got attacked by the Cybermen and the Daleks in that big season 2. Season 2? Yeah, the season 2 finale. Then he says Torchwood 2 is an office in Glasgow, very strange man. And that's the spin-off I want to see. I want to see who that very strange man is.
Yeah, so do I. That'd be fun.
Yeah.
Just like a sitcom about that man. That'd be interesting.
How long do Sontarans live for? Because if you remember Strax, the Victorian Sontaran, there's an episode where him and the two Victorian ladies, the lizard and the lady, are like, oh, Strax is off in his favorite place again, and we cut to Strax in Glasgow in a bar fight. So if Strax could live, because he would outlive the Victorian lady, he could still potentially be alive in modern day.
No, actually, the natural Sontaran lifespan is 50 years.
Because they're like clones or something, aren't they?
Yeah, they're clones who are hatched and fully grown and ready for combat in 6 days.
Yeah, damn. I would have loved Strax to be the Torchwood 2.
You can call him the great cloned grandson of Strax.
He could have cloned himself somehow. I'm trying to think of if there could be any other Doctor Who alien that's still alive on Earth. The issue is most of the aliens are bad guys.
Yeah. Or the good guys end up getting written out of the show for a while. Like the Victorian gang.
Mm-hmm. There's not a lot of Doctor Who that takes place in Scotland.
True. We need to change that.
Yeah. I couldn't think who it could be. I'm going to say it's Strax's clone for now.
If anyone has Russell T Davis's email account or phone number, we'd love to have it. We'd love to pitch this idea to him. Please don't steal our idea. Or Nicholas Briggs. We'll do a Big Finish spin-off.
Yeah. Then he says that Torchwood 3 is Cardiff and Torchwood 4 has gone missing, but it'll show up one of these days. And that I love that line. But what is Torchwood 4? Where's that spin-off coming from as well?
Also, Torchwood really sounds like a really small organization. Like, really, only Torchwood 3 exists at this point?
Yeah.
And we're just like 5 people that are really
To
bad
be fair,
at their jobs.
most of them definitely died in the Battle of Canary Wharf.
Yeah.
like most of them were killed by Cybermen and Daleks.
Yeah.
Then they keep talking, and the thing in this episode, another bit where I was like, oh, this is a fun little twist on Torchwood being edgy and dark, where Captain Jack's like, or Gwen is like, we could work with the police, we could team up, and he's like, oh, okay, I get it. So you thought we were looking for the killer? No, we were just testing out the cool glove, which is like really shows the dark parts of Torchwood as well.
Yeah, it is a very kind of corrupt organization almost. They definitely do have a stigma as we are above the law, basically. That's what they think.
They're definitely an organization, as you can see, like an organization that you can understand why the Doctor doesn't like them very much.
Yeah. Basically because he basically doesn't like Torchwood because they're too R-rated.
Yeah. The perception filter on the TARDIS doesn't work whenever he's around them. But Gwen goes on to being like, I'm gonna tell everybody about this stuff that's going on. This is totally messed up. And Captain Jack's like, yeah, you will if you can remember. And she's like, what do you mean? And he's like, I poisoned your drink with memory loss drink.
They call the memory loss drink retcon, which, if you know TV tropes, that's great. Perfect name for it. Retcon is basically like whenever a writer decides to get rid of a plot element from like a previous season, they just pretend it never existed. That's a retcon, and I think it's a perfect name for it.
And especially with a show related to Doctor Who, where there's retcons every other season.
Yeah. Like, there has been, 20 retcons since Torchwood has been off the air in the Doctor Who universe. But also, it is kind of creepy that they're gonna basically date drug Gwen.
This is an episode with 2 creepy drink / sprays that change your behavior / memory. It's a running theme.
And then Captain Jack totally lets her drive a car when he admits to her that there's a little bit of sedative in it as well. She could crash her car and die, dude.
Yeah, but then they could go over to her body and stick the glove on her head. So he's probably kind of part of him's looking forward to that bit. You know?
True. Yikes. It definitely makes Torchwood sound worse, doesn't it?
Yeah. And then they separate on the street, and this is complete conjecture here, but as Captain Jack is walking away, what's to the right of him but a boarded up police phone box? Not police box, but a boarded up phone box, an out of use phone box. I like the imagery of
I don't see it.
It's the big silver thing.
Ugh, I hate BBC iPlayer because it's so hard to rewind a little bit. Can't do a 10-second skip, really.
It's not quite boarded up, but it's got metal around it. If you go 3320.
Okay, give me 10 seconds. And also, Captain Jack says language, like Captain America did at the beginning of Civil War.
Yep.
Nearly there. 2 seconds. Oh, there we go. Okay, I
Yeah,
see it.
so the phone box to his right that's not in use, and it's silver and chrome and a bit disused and disorganized. It's a fun bit of metaphor you could throw on there. As I said, it's probably conjecture and me just being like, that's something you could do, but it's fun.
I think they did it probably did it on purpose, right? But yeah, Gwen immediately runs home to write down the words in her laptop. Like, it feels like she should have just texted somebody, like text Face or somebody.
Well, mobile phones are around, but people aren't texting a super lot around this time. I was like thinking, watching this, that so much of this plot line that happens now for the next 10 minutes and gets kind of boring could be solved with modern technology, because you would just you would record your audio, you would text it to so many people, you would record your video of it, you would write it down by hand, you would like do literally everything. We have so many modes of capturing information now that
So basically Gwen is just writing down all she can remember about Torchwood on her computer. Yanto is watching, he shuts down her computer, and it's a major coincidence because she could have just been writing it down on pen and paper. Like, nothing's stopping her from doing that.
I thought that as well, but that does come back later on in the episode.
Yeah.
When she sees her notebook and it says, like, remember on it or something. But as she's doing that, we also are cutting back and forth between looking at Owen on a night out, and he decides that he likes to date rape people as he sprays his alien spray. He's got an alien spray that when he sprays it on his face, he becomes irresistible to whoever is like looking at him and smelling the spray at the time. Which starts off, he's like, this lady's not interested in him, and he sprays the spray, then she's interested in him. They're walking out the streets, and then her boyfriend comes up, and he's like, what are you doing? This is my girlfriend, why are you taking her? Where are you going with him? And she's like, no, I just want him, you don't understand, I just want him. And they're like arguing, and he's like, I can solve this fight. He sprays himself, and they're going to go have a threesome, which, that's a fun joke at the payoff, but the date rape spray was really weird. But, it plays into his character being a bit of a scumbag.
Yes, 100%, yeah. And that scumbag element stays for the remainder of the show until the end, kind of when he sacrifices himself. Spoiler alert.
And then we also see the lady that used the glove try it out on a fly, which I thought was a really cool effect, bringing the fly back to life. That was a really fun effect.
And then Tosh uses it for the absolute pure purpose of just being like, oh, I want to read all of these books, save it on my computer. That's all she does. She has a magical device that scans every book just from the what do you call it? The center bit.
Go on.
What do you call it? The spine.
There you go.
I don't read books.
Yeah, and you don't have a back either. And then we get a really long shot of Captain Jack standing on a landmark. Yes. It goes on for quite some time of just him looking out into the city of Cardiff like Batman.
The landmark kind of looks like a penis.
Yeah, it does.
But I don't know if he did on purpose, but yeah, definitely it looks like a penis. And he definitely loves just standing on landmarks. For I don't know how he gets up there or how he gets down. He just loves standing on top of them.
It's the vortex manipulator. It's the only time he uses it.
Apparently in real life, people are, like, police and traffic wardens were concerned about a man jumping to suicide just because they saw the stunt double up there, which is kind of, yeah.
Then we cut to Gwen waking up from the memory loss drug kicking in as she's woken up by her fiance guy. And then the episode kind of hits the brakes for the next 10 minutes almost, like 5-6 minutes, where Gwen's trying to remember what's going on. I don't know what it was. I often find memory loss plot lines a bit tedious, but introducing one this late into the episode I thought was a really strange choice.
Yes, I usually hate memory loss things as well, because obviously Gwen is just going to remember in like 5 minutes. It's not really a plot line at all. It's just the worst example of a memory loss thing comes in like Spider-Man 3. Remember when James Franco loses his memory? That was fun.
That film is excellent. So
It's a good bad.
I really I enjoy it for what it is. It's fun. Like it's a fun romp. Gwen basically forgets everything about Torchwood and goes back to work. And we find out the murder weapon, because remember, there's actually murder plot line happening in this episode. You might have forgot because they're not investigating it, and they discover the knife, and that is to be fair, it is a mean ass looking knife, don't you think?
It is awesome, and it's one that could easily be drawn as well, which works well for the plot. It's very memorable.
Yeah, so it's like your regular blade with like a curved edge, but then sticking out the side of it are 2 extra mini knives to give the knife wings that just cause extra damage. It would really take a chunk out of you going into you. Like, it would be sore. It's a very Klingon design. It reminds me a lot of like Klingon weaponry.
But yeah, I thought this little montage here is really good edited. Like, it's just Gwen standing around listening to her co-worker babble on. And she suddenly has all these like flashes to the knife when her husband or boyfriend is babbling on, and it keeps on cutting to the knife, which is, I thought it was really good editing. And then there's like cutting to like a Weldon kind of scene, which comes in like a couple of minutes later, where it's revealed that it's Susie Weldon. I think it's a really well edited scene, honestly.
So like before we get to this like last scene of the episode, did we see the blade in the Torchwood building?
I don't actually remember, to be honest.
Because the way that like Gwen's drawing it and remembering, there's like around like 41, 45-ish, we like cut very quickly to an image of the actual blade itself in like a blue room, which reminds me of the Torchwood room, but I don't remember ever seeing it in the Torchwood like building.
Yeah.
Because I thought her obsession with the shape of the knife to be really, really strange. I was like, why is she so obsessed with this knife, and why is she somehow linking this back to like the Torchwood building? So maybe we saw it in like the background of a shot or something.
Yeah, because when we come to the hub, Susie is welding something, and I presume it's the knife, but I don't think we get a close up on it. But Gwen must have seen it.
Maybe that's what she's welding. Yeah, that could play in. That could make sense. But yeah, they totally missed it. She is using the welder around 2037-ish.
Yeah, I'm on that scene. It's hard to see because there's always sparks in front of the camera. Yeah, it's hard to see because his focus isn't on the object she's welding.
Yeah, I have no idea. But it like the way that it's framed in her flashback sort of drawing made me think it was from the Torchwood building.
Mm-hmm.
But I have no idea.
It definitely looks like it.
But then as she's looking around her office, she sees the little pamphlet about the Wales Millennium Center, where she's written the words "Remember," and I guess the Millennium Center is the name of the landmark that the Torchwood building is located at. I had no idea it was called that, but there you go. It's the Wales Millennium Center.
I just know the Torchwood base is roughly around a landmark called Roald Dahl something, as in the author. I don't know what that is actually, but yeah. We're probably going to rename it now, but everybody's like, oh, Roald Dahl was racist. Oh, no.
I remember being a kid and, like, reading Roald Dahl's books, and even knowing then, I was like, this is a good book, but Roald Dahl was a horrible man.
Well,
Like, I even at the young age of, like, 5 and 6, I knew Roald Dahl wasn't a nice dude.
Yeah, I recognized that he was a grumpy old man, for sure, with very outdated views, probably. I still enjoy his work, though.
Yeah, he wrote some very, very classic children's stories.
Second week in a row we're talking about Roald Dahl, by the way.
Well, not for the listeners.
True, yeah. What is time?
Then at the landmark things, Gwen is like notices a figure, and then she cuts back to the flashing of the blade getting made, which with the welding spark. So that has to be what she was working on. Mm-hmm. It was really poorly framed. They could have made that a lot more obvious. But yeah, she like forgets her memory for a montage, and then is like remembering stuff and is here again. Like, it is like almost completely pointless. She could have remembered Torchwood, gone back to work, saw the knife, and then put 2 and 2 together. You know?
Yeah, we really didn't need that scene. And again, it just comes across as creepy now in 2021. It's just like Captain Jack basically date raped her. Well, not raped her, but gave her a drug. That's
Yeah, it was Owen that did the raping.
true.
But yes, this is where we get the reveal that Susie was the villain the whole time in the episode, and that she had been doing the murders because she wanted to test out the glove. That was the reason behind the murders. Which, I guess, it makes sense. You know, that is basically what Captain Jack told us before, where he's like, we just were testing the bodies to test the glove. And it turned out that the bodies were only there to also test the glove. It's like a self-fulfilling circle.
And again, her obsession with wanting to bring people back from the dead is very relevant considering her boss is immortal and she doesn't realize it yet.
What I do like here is, this is to the benefit of the amnesia storyline that they've shoehorned in, is as Susie is confessing, because she's like talking to Gwen, she's like pulling out the knife and being like, seeing this will probably jog your memory back because you're smart and seeing things can make the amnesia go away. And she's like really confessing to Gwen because she's got so much to get off her chest. She feels super guilty about doing this. And she's like, I've ruined my life. I'm going to lose my job. And I love my job. I love what I do here and things like that. And she's just confessing, assuming that Gwen remembers who she is. But the whole time Gwen's like, what? Where do I know you from?
Yeah, she's like, I don't understand what's going on. Who are you? I recognize you.
I really enjoyed that little bit.
I kind of do wish there was more lead up to who Susie is as a character before this revelation, but I presume they've done that in Big Finish audio dramas. Like, she has a spin-off where she's working with Margaret Slovene from Boomtown.
Big Finish will do anything.
But like before this scene, she's really a background character. She's maybe had like 2 lines.
Compared to the other members of Torchwood as well, she's very much the far back, like least cared about character.
Yeah, I remember when I watched the show like 2 years ago. It was the first time I've seen the show since like 2009, and I was like, oh yeah, she's a character. Whatever happened to her? Like, I completely forgot she was a character. She does come back, like, but again, not that memorable.
I also really like the shot of Susie confessing to Gwen as Captain Jack starts appearing from the ground. It's a really nice wide 2-shot with Jack in the middle rising up, and of course with the perception filter you assume that Susie can't see him, which plays off later where she's like, perception filters don't work on me, and then she shoots Jack in the head. And it's I think the first time I've ever seen Captain Jack die and there be gore associated with it. Because usually he just gets like shot by a Dalek.
Yeah, he does, yes. He got shot by a Dalek in his first death. And then also in bloody Stolen Earth, yeah.
Yep.
And then he got kind of burned to death in the Series 3 final.
He also dies in just before he gets burnt to death. When he's running after the Doctor, when he jumps onto the TARDIS, he gets killed by the time vortex, just destroying him, and then he comes back to life as well.
Yeah, not a lot of like bullet wounds or anything like that. But yeah, to a first-time viewer, like, your main character is shot in the head. Oh my god.
Yeah, and it's like definitively shot in the head. There's a hole, there's blood, he drops to the ground.
Like, obviously you had all the build-up being like, oh, Captain Jack vanished in 1941. Oh, I guess he's immortal then. I guess most people realize in this scene, which is if you didn't know who Captain Jack was and you only had the vaguest awareness of Doctor Who, you would assume he's a time traveler. Yeah, or even presume that Captain Jack from the past is like a grandfather or something, something ridiculous like that. But yeah, at this point, Gwen starts really panicking, and it's really good acting on her part. Like, before this, she's very composed, but the minute Jack gets shot in the head, she starts panicking, which is very realistic.
Yeah, it's the she starts being like, oh, I am about to die. Like, oh my god. I'd like just unable to react or think properly. She's basically just sitting there shaking, like unable to comprehend anything other than like, I am so scared right now.
And it's really solid acting.
And then Captain Jack rises from the dead, and we see the bullet hole in his head heal up in a, okay looking effect.
Yeah.
I think that, the healing looks okay, but the digital effect of him getting shot through the head, because it happens so quick, looks really good still. Like, that one actually held up really well.
Yeah, that's what you get. Just this fast shot you just need, and it really works. I presume if you just go frame by frame, it doesn't look as good, but, it's not meant to be watched like that, is it?
Well, that's how I watch everything, Scott. I am just spamming the play and pause button so that I can appreciate everything. And then Susie does what I would do in this situation, and she blows her own brains out.
Yes.
It's really the only way you're getting out of that situation.
Yeah, it's really grim, isn't it?
Yeah.
Again, a Doctor Who spin-off, and somebody just committed suicide with full-on blood. Not as bloody as you'd probably see in other things, but there's still a fair amount of blood.
And then that action of her killing herself finally makes Gwen remember everything, which, does play into the hilarity of this whole confession. She's just so confused the whole time. And it's not until she kills herself that she does remember the whole, Torchwood thing. And does that mean that Gwen is an idiot? In the later episodes, we see that she is a bit incompetent because she's not trained up and stuff like that. But Susie is like, just seeing something like this knife can make people remember if they're smart, and you're smart. But Gwen doesn't remember. It's not until something exceptionally violent happens in front of her that makes her remember. So to me, that's just like, oh yeah, Gwen isn't as smart as you would expect the main character of the show to be.
Yeah, I guess that. I guess there's maybe some part of her that doesn't want to remember because she just discovered a whole load of really awful shit and she's trying to repress that subconsciously.
Maybe.
But also, everyone's intelligence in this show kind of varies between episodes, so...
Then we see them lock up the knife and the... what else was it? It was the knife and...
The glove.
Yeah, I literally just watched it. Then we see them lock up the knife and the glove into a box and put it in a wall as the rest of the team hand back their items that they took without permission, like the date rape spray and the book saving device thing.
Yeah, I don't really know what the negative to that book saving device thing is. It's not really established. Like, I understand the date rape thing being bad.
Yeah. And then Captain Jack pushes Susie's body into the freezer, which is, there's the coroner's freezers with the dead bodies, and we see that there's a lot more of them, which made me think they have lost a lot of members of Torchwood, which would explain why their team isn't so small.
One of those bodies, I believe, is basically Captain America. There's like a soldier man that got frozen in the war, and every year they kind of bring him out. I can't remember the reason why, but every year, just one day, they bring him out and we kind of live a day with him. I think it's like to cure illness or something, but I can't remember.
Interesting. But this, the reason I really like the shot of Captain Jack walking away is we see all the freezers, because it really shows the mortality of our characters. Mm-hmm. Whereas, we're coming from, again, speaking of mortality with Captain Jack, isn't it? The immortal man Captain Jack surrounded by dead bodies. This sums up his character in one. But it's, the show where the main character doesn't die with the Doctor to a show where the characters will die, where they are in grave danger and there are stakes to stuff.
Yeah.
I appreciate it. And also, the shot of him is very good.
And also just the idea that everyone around Captain Jack dies eventually. It's something that Doctor Who hit on in School Reunion. Just everyone ages except for Captain Jack, which is really tragic.
The classic story of the immortal man, everyone around him dies. But, Captain Jack does age. That is established. He does age. He just doesn't die. Which is why he turns into the face of Bo. Because I guess when you get to a certain age, your head just expands.
Yeah, one of the theories about that is originally Stephen Moffat wanted Captain Jack to appear in the Headless Monk episode. And that's why his head becomes massive. But But then we found out that Stephen Moffat doesn't want to work with John Barrowman for reasons that we probably know now. So
Yeah.
I don't know the reason.
Yeah. Yeah, I can see that being a good reason, though. Like, he gets involved with the headless monks.
Yeah, and his head kind of just grows massive for some reason.
Yeah. Well, you know, if you age that long, you get a really high chance of developing tumors and things. So it could just be the face of Bo is one giant tumor. Then we find out as well that Captain Jack didn't tell the team that he's immortal. He never told them that he got shot through the head and survived. And there we have our secret that I'm sure will get revealed a little bit later in the series. Of the team doesn't know Captain Jack's immortal. He's the mystery man.
Yeah, 100%. Not only that, but they argue about it for a long time when there's an alien kind of ravishing through Cardiff, which is really awkward to watch. It's randomly run out of budget and we need to have an argument inside just to save up on the budget. But it reminds me of Doctor Who, like, the companions of Jodie Whittaker's Doctor doesn't really know who the Doctor is, and it's, again, a very Chibnall thing of being like, there's secrets that the companions really don't know.
Then we find out that, you know, Captain Jack is immortal, as we've gone over, and he's like, hey, Gwen, we have an open space now in the Torchwood company. There's a job vacancy is just rapidly opened up. Would you like to fill it? And she's like, yes, I would, in the TV show Torchwood.
And where are they having this conversation? On top of a big building, because where else would they talk? I guess if you need somewhere private to go, on top of a large building is a good choice.
Yeah.
Nobody else would be up there. Don't know how the hell they got up there.
Yeah, why this conversation couldn't be done in Jack's office in the Torchwood building? Dunno. I guess it's less dramatic.
I just love the idea of Jack, Gwen following Jack just upstairs in a building and be like, where are we going? And then Jack's completely silent. And they wind up at the very top of the building and be like, okay, now you're speaking to me. Why didn't you speak to me before?
Yeah, it's very strange why they're up there.
But again, it's a nice shot to end the episode on, and we see the pterodactyl just flying around the place, which I guess means it escaped, and they somehow capture it before the Cyberwoman episode.
Maybe that's why they're on the roof. They're taking the pterodactyl out for a walk. They're just keeping an eye on him as he's having a wee fly around.
I mean, that's possible.
Yeah, Jack's like, they're in the facility. Jack's like, I've got to take the pterodactyl out. Do you want to come with me? Gwen's like, oh, okay, yeah, sure. They go up onto the roof. They watch him fly around. There's like a perception filter in that area. Why not? And they start talking. That's the reason behind it. I've explained it.
But again, the idea of just nobody being like, Margaret, I was just outside. I saw a fucking dinosaur up there. Yeah, what the fuck?
This is the public where they go, oh, I was outside. I was hallucinating again. There's more hallucinogens. like the public will just accept anything at this point.
Yeah, the public is really stupid in this show. Apart from Linda. You remember the Linda organization? That's the only smart people in the show.
And what's his name from Rose? Who's like
Clive?
Yeah, Clive.
Yeah,
Clive. But that brings us to the end of the episode, as we get a quick next time look, and we see the sex gas episode, which was a pretty fun episode. I watched it last night. What are your thoughts on this episode, looking back on it almost 15 years later?
Aside from the whole amnesia storyline, it's a pretty fun episode. It's a pretty fun pilot episode, honestly. And it's not the best. It's not the most well written, but it's fun, and Torchwood remains fun for the first 3 seasons, and that's why I like Torchwood. It's fun, dumb fun. What about you? This is your first time watching this show, isn't it?
This was my first time watching it. And this episode I thought was lacking entirely in a plot. There's
not as bad as K9 and Company, though.
No. They don't talk about soil, unfortunately. But it was lacking in a plot, but I thought that was okay because the show establishes a tone. It gives us the characters. It creates this, the world of Torchwood for us. And, I enjoyed this episode so much. I watched the next episode afterwards, and then I went to sleep because it was getting late. But I very much enjoyed my first outing with Torchwood. I definitely think it will hopefully get better from the pilot. Most episodes do, but it's a very, very strong pilot, and I think it holds up, minus a few jokes here and there which are dated a bit badly. Very, very much enjoyed watching this.
I'm glad you enjoyed it. I've been wondering this entire time what your reaction would be, literally from the first day of the podcast, being like, Torchwood is coming up. Are you gonna like this?
Yeah, because with Doctor Who with Doctor Who fans in general, Torchwood's kind of a 50-50, isn't it?
Yeah.
Some people loved it. Some people really didn't like it.
And again, I think it goes back. I think I enjoy it so much just because I just remember being a kid watching it for the first time and being like, I'm an adult now. I'm really enjoying this. I don't understand what the fuck is going on in this alien sex gas episode or the pedophile episode, but I'm enjoying this episode.
But yeah, that brings us to the end of this episode. A really fun look at a really weird spin-off from Doctor Who. I think we decided we're calling this the sexiest spin-off.
Definitely is.
The sexiest Doctor Who spin-off, because we've had the worst, we've had the best, and now it's the sexiest. And I guess Class, if we ever look at Class, it'll be the most forgettable Doctor Who spin-off, and then we'll have like a quadrilogy. So
and then K9 will be the
weirdest, or the strangest, something like that.
Yeah.
But what are we looking at next week, Scott?
Next week we're looking at episodes 2 of the new season. That episode should come out either on Monday or Tuesday, depends on schedules.
So wild. It's so strange thinking right now in the people that are listening to this as this comes out, we are experiencing this new season of Doctor Who, whereas me and you have the vaguest of ideas of what we're about to encounter.
Yeah, we are 2 weeks away from a new episode. We are very excited, but
it could be it's terrible and everyone's hating it, but right now we're excited.
Be sure to listen to our podcast from a few days ago where we review the excellent or bad first episode of the new season. We don't know.
Yeah, we had no idea. But yeah, this whole month we will be looking at the new season of Doctor Who. That's basically taking up the schedule for this month. So look forward to those reviews. I'm really looking forward to this season.
And then be prepared at the end of the month. We're looking at the 50th anniversary special, Day of the Doctor,
that's going to be a long one.
if this is over 2 hours long, that's definitely going to be a long one.
If the movie was almost 5 hours long,
oh, God.
I have so much more to say on the 50th anniversary than the Doctor Who movie.
Yeah, you better strap yourself in, listeners. It's going to be a big one.
I'm looking forward to that one, yeah.
But we will catch you again next week.
Well, we have plugs to plug in first, Scott. So thank you very much for listening to this podcast. This has been Who Watches Who, a Doctor Who podcast. You can find us on Facebook at Who Watches Who, on Twitter at Watches Doctor. You can follow me on Twitter at Cloth223. This podcast is available wherever you get podcasts. I think that's all my bits said. All the links are in the description.
And you can email us at whowatcheswhopod@gmail.com. What are your thoughts on Torchwood? We'd love to hear your opinion. Do you love Torchwood as much as we do?
What are your thoughts on this new season of Doctor Who we're experiencing right now? Is it good? Let me know. I don't know yet, so...
What was your reaction to the cliffhanger of episode 1? I was like, whoa! I was so shocked.
I loved that part in episode 1 where I was like, whoa, or when I was like, that was bad. Whatever happens.
I liked the part where the sonic screwdriver was out on screen and the Doctor pressed the sonic screwdriver and a door opened. That was my favourite part.
Yeah, that was a good part. I liked the bit where Yaz remembered she was a cop.
That's never going to happen, that's what I said.
It's never going to happen. But thank you very much for listening. We will see you next week.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.